Go. Hi everybody, we're Shleter Tracker and we're a bunch of high schoolers from Yangon, Myanmar. We're competing in UNGlobal Big Data Competition for Climate Action.
Myanmar Shleter Tracker is an interactive application to combat inadequate shelter accessibility by not only tracking evacuation pattern, time and distance individuals take before reaching each shelter, but also by providing information on availability of resources and space in shelter camps, along with other assisting features such as logistics on evacuation routes and interactive alert systems to identify and monitor issues relating to shelter accessibility and natural disaster evacuations.
When a disaster first strikes, everybody begins to panic, and the first priority is to either evacuate or reach a safe location. This is very difficult and very dangerous without proper information. Which is why there are many unnecessary deaths and casualties. However, this is also why Shleter Tracker is a necessity. Not only does it provide information on the safest and shortest route to shelters, it also provides information on shelters themselves, which is essential for the government to make policies on shelters.
Over 1 million people were critically affected by the extreme flood in 2015 in Myanmar. Over 100 people also lost their lives. People were left with empty hands as their homes and belongings were buried and washed away in mud.
When there is a disaster, people can evacuate. However, there's a lack of information on shelter location and distance, shelter availability and resources, traffic and hazards on boats, on shelters. So to combat these things, we need an application that solves all these issues when evacuation is happening and when there's natural disaster strike and we need to evacuate. So Shleter Tracker is an application that solves all these problems for the users, for the citizens, and also for governments to implement on their actions.
So how does the application actually work? So we have our first feature, the main feature. It's the Shleter Tracker feature. So the Shleter Tracker feature includes many options for the shelter. It pinpoints the shelter's location on a map, and then it also includes the distance from you, the type of shelter, the number of people currently in the shelter capacity, whether the status is open or not, and even an estimation of food. So the types of data we are sharing and gathering in the application includes the shelter capacity, the number of people in the shelter, resources in the shelter, location of the shelter. All these 4 items are gathered from the shelter, the people from the shelter, like an authoritative person from the shelter, and then it is used to help users. And then the second type of data gathering process is from the public to help users. So we're gonna use public data such as Google Maps, and then the Google Maps also gives you the distance from your current location. GPS, by using GPS we can determine the distance from you and the shelter. And then lastly, we have the data that's gathered from users to helpers to shelters. So by getting the data of the user's time, evacuation pattern, and a person and the distance a person take to reach a shelter, we can actually triangulate like its evacuation pattern before it reaches the shelter, and then it can help us determine better ways and better means of improving their evacuation means of methods. So this is gonna be gathered through the location of the user by GPS. Shleter Tracker provides assist to both users and the government from the data gathered. For example, Shleter Tracker's main feature for users and affected citizens includes the even distribution of people. If people know the capacity of a certain shelter, they may determine that, oh, that shelter have too much people, I think we should go to a different shelter. So this is how people are evenly distributed through Shleter Tracker. Shleter Tracker also pinpoints the location of the shelter. So a person may be like, oh, I didn't know a shelter exists near my place, and they don't have to travel very far place to reach a suitable shelter. They can just go to the nearest. As a result of knowing these locations, people won't be clustered in one shelter. They will know how much people are in one shelter and their capacity, and they will be evenly spread, and shelters can communicate with each other by knowing the capacity, and shelters can communicate with each other to get a better knowledge of their resources and their capacity and share. Shleter Tracker's main feature for government and organization by using big data. So the big data will be acquired by using GPS to track the migration/evacuation pattern, time, distance individuals take to reach shelter camps. The GPS will be able to triangulate the amount of people in common areas where people are most delayed. So by getting this information, government can decide whether to implement more shelters in area that needs or that might not need. And then from the data of the shelter location and its resources, government and organizations can better allocate their donation. They might see that in some areas there are more shelters and in some areas there might be less shelters. And then, as I have mentioned above, we also included the information of the resources in each and every shelter, so government can now see which shelter need the most aid. And then there are sometimes even shelters that governments and organizations do not know they exist and they really need help from government and organization. In this app, those shelters that have been hidden and unknown can actually be brought into light and brought into attention by this application, and government and organizations can help. And now these kind of shelters will be known to the public and known to everybody to access, and government and organizations to help. And then the application will use the GPS tracker to collect data on evacuation pattern, time, distance user take before reaching a shelter camp. So government can even implement more evacuation routes to shelters so that they can reach faster.
Shleter Tracker's assisting feature also provides information of the logistics on evacuation routes using the route system for the users and affected citizens. The route system in the interactive application will allow people to evacuate the route by choosing the closest evacuation route. This gives the users a shorter time to reach their destination, saving their time, yet still provides a precise information. With the route system, people know the traffic and the congestion evacuators and thus can make decisions early in times of emergency cases. They would not have any delay. Furthermore, it also allows people to evacuate fast by avoiding congested routes such as extreme traffic. Shleter Tracker provides the information with different key colors. This way, users could avoid route that is blocked and choose an alternative route. Additionally, the application also provides a new route that users can choose to reach their destination. The route system also provides information of the evacuation routes for government and organization in order to help the users and citizens in affected areas. This route system is helpful for external helpers such as rescue parties that can easily assess shelter camps and provide the necessary help that the affected people require. With the access to Shleter Tracker, government can easily identify hotspots where traffic occurs often. Therefore, they could build up more ideas to create a better community for the affected citizens, such as implementing policies to reduce traffic and building more shelters in the region where the traveling time is too long. Shleter Tracker also has an additional assisting feature, alert systems, to identify and monitor issues relating to the accessibility of shelter.
Shleter Tracker has an assisting feature and alert system for users and affected citizens. People who are trapped in hazardous areas can send alerts requesting help to nearby places. By doing so, people will be able to set a distress call, which other people will be able to pick up. This makes it much easier to find people and to save them. Governments are able to identify the hotspots and where the alerts are sent. The big data usage is to triangulate the amount of people, distance, time, and common areas where individuals are most delayed in reaching to available shelter. What this means is that the GPS tracker in the application's goal is to track the migration patterns and the time it will take for individuals to reach a certain area. This information can be used to identify how many people are in a certain area, such as and compare the amount of people to the amount of shelters. This will automatically inform the government as to which areas have too many people compared to the amount of shelters. The priority of this application is the safety of all people. It aims to create a network of communication between the shelter, citizens, and the government.